Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to the data services within Infor OS App Designer and walk you through building out a data service. So what exactly is a data service within Infor OS App Designer? Data services are created in Infor OS App Designer and they are designed to retrieve data from other sources and connect it to other products using APIs available in the Infor OS API Gateway. The APIs in the API Gateway can define data sources or services and return back lists of information or scalar individual data points from an API. They can also do data-driven activities like updating or deleting data, or you can perform functional activities that execute a process or a program such as calculations. Any data service that is defined in Infor OS App Designer can be bound to components, such as binding a grid to a data list or a button bound to an API that executes a process. Lastly, data services can be created from data lake or can be a static list defined by the user. In this first demo, I will demonstrate how to create a static list data service in the Infor OS App Designer. Starting in Portal V2, I will select App Designer from the landing page. In the left-hand pane, select Data Services to see a list of existing data services. Then click the New Data Service button on the top right corner. Here I'm going to select Static List and then select Create. Static List can be particularly useful when used in a component to display a list of static, read-only information. These type of data services do not connect to any type of APIs. Give the data service a name and description, and in this case, I'm going to call mine Category Listing and then click Next. Here's where I can build my table of values. Select the Add Column button and add a category column and a name column. These will become the elements within our data table. Then select the Add Row button to add in rows of static data to be used in your application. Once finished, click Next and then Finish to create the data service. You can sort on the created column to view the most recent data service, and use the ellipsis on the right to test the data service we just created. Here you can see the simple static list response that we created. We can use this static list down the line when we are building out our widgets. Now, if I wanted to create a data service that connected to something outside of the system, I would need to create a data service from Ion API. Select the New Data Service button again, and this time I will select Ion API as the service type. Then select Create. From this screen, you'll see a list of suites that are available within the tenant. In this example, I'm going to select Infor M3. If you wanted to filter further, you could also specify exactly what type of method you want to retrieve. The search bar will let you search on specific keywords within the suite. In this case, I'm going to search for item OIS 017. This will return all the price listing information in M3. Once I hit search, you will see it return back all of the endpoints available in the API Gateway for M3. Scroll to page 2 and click Select on the right for the List Price List endpoint. Give the data service a name and description. In this example, I'm just going to call it M3 List Price List and click Next. This next screen will give you a basic list of request information, such as the HTTP method and the API relative URL. The request header field displays the request header information for the API request. You can click the pencil icon on the right to edit, add, or remove header parameters. For M3 specifically, this request header does not need any modifications. However, for other applications, this request header will need to be modified. Eventually, we will be publishing a how-to guide for connecting other ERPs to IID. When the View JSON button is enabled, you can click it to view the JSON code schema and template. At the bottom is a list of input parameters for the API request. You can add or remove parameters, set parameters as required, define the parameter types, and optionally provide aliases and default values for the parameters. Click the Test Data Service button at the bottom, and then click Run Data Service button to view the full response body that is being retrieved from the API request. On the next screen is where we can specify the output information. The output type can be either JSON or to a file. You can click on the View JSON button to view the JSON code schema and template. Here you can define the JSON root element. The object ID also allows you to specify a unique key, which is used for selecting items on refresh. The output parameters section allows you to create an alias as well as the ability to add or delete any output parameters you might not need. With a properly formatted API, you can use the Generate Parameters button to automatically pull in the parameters from the API response. In the Output Parameters section below, I can remove any parameters I don't want to output by hitting the delete icon on the right. I can also specify an alias for each parameter using the alias field. I can then test the data service by selecting the Test Data Service button at the bottom. Click the Run Data Service button to see a single record of data being retrieved from the response body with the aliases we defined in the previous step. Click Next and then click Finish to create the data service. From the Data Services screen, I can select the ellipsis on the right to edit, test, or delete a data service. I'm going to select Test, and I'm going to add in a filter value to only retrieve back records with a company value of 790. Click the Run Data Service, and notice that the response is now filtered to show only records from company 790. Now my data service is ready to be used as a data source for building widgets. Lastly, data services can be created from a data lake object. Click the New Data Service button again, and this time select Data Lake. Here you can search on a particular keyword, or you can select Search to see all available data lake objects. For this example, I'm going to search for HCM, and I'm going to select HCM Job. Specify a name and description and click Next. In the Queries section, I can view and test the query, which will run the data service in the target system. Scroll to the bottom and select Test Data Service. Then click the Run Data Service button to view the full query response. Click Next to move to the Output Parameter screen where you can specify an alias and view the corresponding data types. Click Finish to create the data service. Once again, you can use the ellipsis on the right to quickly test a completed data service. This concludes today's video. In the next part, we will walk you through the creation of a widget using the data service we created today. To follow along, make sure to like and subscribe to the Infor Technology YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.